Welcome, everyone, to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a story that is honestly just incredibly gripping, but also deeply, deeply tragic. We're pulling this straight from Patrick Radden Keefe's fantastic investigation, London Falling. It's a tale of a gilded city and a truly fatal mystery. You know, Virginia Woolf once wrote something that really sticks with you. London, after all, is a city of tombs. Kind of a chilling thought, right? But think about it. Beneath all that modern glitz, the high-end shopping, the chauffeured Bentleys cruising around, London is at its core this ancient settlement literally built on centuries of history, secrets, and yeah, tombs. To really wrap our heads around the fatal mystery we're looking at today, we've got to immerse ourselves in that shadowy atmosphere first. And there's no better place to start than the very lifeblood, and sometimes the executioner, of the city itself. Okay, let's dive right into this. Consider the River Thames. Now, we usually just see it as this scenic backdrop for tourists, right? But it is a massive, powerful tidal river. Literally twice a day, its currents ebb and surge with salt water rushing in from the North Sea. When the tide rolls out, the water level plummets by up to 20 feet. It exposes this muddy shoreline where urban beachcombers, they're called mudlarks, are out there regularly unearthing Bronze Age daggers and Roman coins. It's like a giant time capsule. But as much as it was this historic force of commerce, it has always carried a much darker paradox. The great Charles Dickens actually wrote about the Thames as this malignant force, a terrifying body of water that, in his own words, was hiding strange things in its mud, running away with suicides and accidentally drowned bodies. To Dickens, it was this dark ribbon of danger coiling right through the beating heart of the city. And the city built around that river? Well, it went through a totally drastic and rapid transformation. Just look at the London of the past. Back in 1860, it was literally the busiest port in the world, choked with these towering cranes, swarming with laborers, and completely shrouded in the original smog. Fun fact, the word smog was actually invented in London to describe that horrible, toxic mix of coal smoke and fog. But then, fast forward to 1955, the invention of the modern, stackable shipping container completely flips global commerce on its head. Suddenly, these giant new container ships couldn't even navigate the narrow docks of the Thames. So between 1960 and 1980, London's massive shipping industry just virtually vanished. Almost overnight, the whole city pivoted. That old, gritty manufacturing port was completely wiped away, replaced by this sanitized, glistening financial playground. We're talking clean air, high-tech trading floors, and ultra-luxury housing. Now, this metamorphosis absolutely made London a magnet for global wealth, but it also birthed a really unsettling phenomenon: ghost mansions. So what are these? Basically, they are vacant, multi-million-dollar luxury properties owned by foreign investors who use them strictly as safety deposit boxes in the sky, rather than actual homes. As all this international money flooded in, everyday Londoners were swiftly priced right out of their own city. The real estate market was effectively hijacked by foreign buyers, potentates, monarchs, diplomats, people who treated these properties merely as assets to park their cash. So you end up with these unbelievable luxury towers packed with world-class amenities that are entirely devoid of life. It's so eerie. The clocks in the lobbies display the time in Moscow, Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi, while entire fashionable neighborhoods just sit totally dark and completely depopulated after sundown. And the data completely backs up this stark reality. There is a direct, undeniable correlation here. The higher the price tag on a London property, the greater the likelihood that it sits completely, utterly empty. I mean, they are quite literally building vertical ghost towns for absent billionaires. Which brings us to one specific ghost mansion complex known as Riverwalk, built back in 2016 on the north bank of the Thames, and ironically built on the exact site of a former 19th century prison. These sleek, curving towers sit directly across the water from the imposing fortress of MI6, Britain's secret intelligence service. Riverwalk was developed by Sir Gerald Ronson. He's a really fascinating guy who was actually convicted of stock fraud in the 1990s, did some time in prison, and was later made a commander of the British Empire for his philanthropy. Wild, right? Anyway, the penthouses here can run up to £25 million, but good luck figuring out who actually owns them. The units are completely hidden behind offshore trusts and shell companies to maintain this airtight anonymity. And, true to form, for most of the time, Riverwalk seemed completely empty. That is, until the freezing early hours of November 29, 2019. The Thames was running high that night. Just across the river, those surveillance cameras mounted on the MI6 headquarters caught something highly, highly unusual. Riverwalk was, as usual, almost entirely dark. But there was one exception. Unit 504 was absolutely blazing with light. At exactly 2:23 a.m., the camera registers movement. The slender silhouette of a young man steps out of the apartment and onto the narrow balcony. He walks over to one corner, peers over the ledge, then returns to the center of the balcony and jumps. Just take a second to process that. In the dead of night, in this dark, completely empty tower built for hidden wealth, a slender young man plunges into the black, icy, tidal waters of the Thames. It is a haunting, fatal fall straight into the very river Dickens warned us about all those years ago.
Part 1. A Legacy of Survival, the Brettler and Grin Families.
So the absolute most crucial question we have to ask here is, who was this young man and how on earth did he end up on that balcony? To really grasp the devastating emotional stakes of this mystery, we have to step away from the cold, alienating concrete and glass of modern London and look at the incredibly warm, resilient history of this boy's family. Zac Brettler's legacy is one of profound, unbelievable survival. Back in 1939, his paternal grandfather, Baruch, who went by Benny, escaped Germany completely alone at just 13 years old on the Kindertransport. He lost his entire family to the war. On his mother's side, Hugo Grin survived Auschwitz itself, arriving in the UK in 1946 at just 15 years old and eventually becoming a beloved rabbi and a BBC broadcaster. Then, in 1997, their children, Matthew and Rochelle, met on a blind date and completely fell in love. You really have to understand that for these families, descendants of some of history's most unimaginable horrors, creating new life and continuing their bloodline wasn't just a milestone. It was a miraculous, definitive triumph over unspeakable loss. Now, what's really interesting is the economic backdrop Zac's father, Matthew, stepped into. Matthew built a very comfortable career in structured finance right as London was undergoing what they called the Big Bang. This was Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's massive deregulation of the banking industry back in 1986. It completely shattered the old, genteel English boys' club. Suddenly, you have this massive influx of aggressive American brokers flooding the city. Meritocracy arrived, but it took the form of grueling 80-hour work weeks, fueled by sheer ambition, endless coffee, and honestly so much cocaine that the Sunday Times literally ran a story calling it the Big Snort. This whole era birthed Canary Wharf and vaulted London into a rapacious new age of staggering wealth and conspicuous consumption. This was the highly competitive, gilded world Matthew navigated every day to provide for his family.
Out of this deep, powerful family history, in this booming, modernized city, Zachary Brettler was born on a rainy evening in September 2000. He arrived with this totally unexpected tuft of red hair, a trait neither of his parents could trace anywhere in their lineage. But even more striking than that was his demeanor. As Matthew cradled his tiny newborn in the hospital, he noticed this strangely wizened, almost knowing expression on the baby's face. A nurse who was looking on even remarked, "Wow, he looks like he's been here before." His parents decided to name him Zac because they felt the zang of the Z and the hard click of the C perfectly encapsulated the immediate, undeniable force of his personality.
And this brilliant, beautiful spark of life brings us to the agonizing core of our explainer today. How does a family that survived history's darkest, most unspeakable horrors, a family whose very existence is a literal testament to fierce survival, lose their shining sun to the gilded, empty heights of modern London? How does a vibrant, deeply loved boy like Zac end up falling from the dark balcony of a ghost mansion, down into the freezing, ancient mud of the River Thames? The stark contrast between his family's incredible legacy of life and the tragic, sanitized emptiness of the city that ultimately swallowed him, well, it's a mystery that absolutely demands to be unraveled. Thank you so much for joining me as we explored the powerful context of this investigation.